So if your home's been sitting on the market for 30, 60, 90 days plus in the coastal Maryland and Delaware area, well, this video is for you. I'm gonna go over some of the key points of why maybe some houses are sitting on the market while others may be getting multiple offers and having no issues with selling at all. And I like to say it's not necessarily your fault, or maybe if you even list it with an agent, it may not be their fault either. But these key points I'm gonna go over are gonna shed a little bit of light on what I'm seeing on the ground and maybe some tips that would actually help you get your home sold. So you're gonna wanna stick around, especially towards the end, where I'm gonna give some really specific advice on the marketing side to get in front of your perfect buyer. What's going on, everybody? This is Rich, your local coastal Maryland and Delaware realtor. And I get people that reach out all the time and I love it. Never too busy to help. I'm gonna leave my contact information down below in the description. So reach out if you're thinking about selling or having some troubles and need a little bit of help. Never too busy. But without further ado, let's hop into the video. So let's jump right into it and talk about the biggest topic, which is price. Obviously, you want to price right out of the gate to avoid, excess days on the market, have your listing out there, especially if you price too high, the listing can get stale and then buyers are wondering, maybe what's wrong with the house, even though there's nothing wrong with it. And then you're doing price reductions, which happens sometimes. The best scenario is to avoid that, because a lot of times, if you start out higher doing price reductions down the road 6 months, and a lot of times you end up with lesser money than even if you started at a lower price. I know the tendency is to start a little bit high, leave some negotiation room, make sure you don't leave any money on the table. But sometimes doing that way, you really do leave money on the table and you end up accepting less for your home when you eventually sell, if that happens. Of course, you don't want that to happen. Going through this video, I'm gonna help you to not and avoid that. Because right now in coastal Maryland and Delaware, inventory is rising, it's increased. So it's more of a balanced market. So buyers have choices. I'm just thinking of an example. I had one home, it was a fairly newer home, but they also had a newer community right across the street. So when you do a market analysis, it's good to know your comparables of what's sold. But that's always in the past, when you're looking 3 months to 6 months in the past. This market is changing and it can change very quickly, but you also want to look at your competition that's on the market. So in this particular example, in the newer neighborhood, this home was already built same year as this other one, but they were in the market for about 6 months, and there was one other one that I think a little bit less or a little bit more. But either way, the one I'm thinking of started about $50,000 higher, and of course they were doing price reductions and of course still on the market. And looking at that gives you a real good sign of what's going on. So you want to maybe look at the price that they're pricing at now and be aggressive with that and price there or low, depending on how you compare exactly with it, with the condition and your setup and the location. So that's one thing you can't change is your location, but you can improve the condition if it needs improvement to show more value, more for the price that you're selling it for. Or if it's not in tip-top shape, you can adjust that price accordingly. You'll still move the property pretty fairly. So that's one thing to think about and take a look. And again, just to wrap this up, when you're looking at your competition, other properties on the market, a lot of times if you go too high, basically what you're doing is you're helping your neighbor to sell faster because their home looks like a better value at the price that it's set. Obviously, if you're selling the home yourself, you have that, or if you're working with a professional, we make our income on commission base, so we don't earn a commission until the job is done and the home is sold. So it's a win-win for us to sell at the most money possible. Of course, you as a seller would want the most money as possible too, so it's an equal partnership there, win-win. Obviously, it doesn't benefit anybody when you overprice and the home just sits there and doesn't sell. So make sure that you price right and know your market on there. All right, so let's talk about key point 2. The one thing that you can do is get pre-inspections on your home. So like in Delaware, usually they mandate that you have your septic inspections if the property has a septic every 2 to 3 years. And Maryland, they don't really require you to do that, but as a seller, I do recommend you to go ahead and have your septic inspection and a home inspection along with a termite. And now traditionally buyers will come and have a choice to do their own inspections. But think about this though, if you already have your inspections, particularly like on a septic, which I think could be like the #1 deal killer in a lot of real estate transactions that I've dealt with in the past. I know sometimes you don't always want to know if something's wrong, but when you're selling your house, and of course you want to price it correctly too, but when you do your inspections, let's say septic, if there's something major on there, you get a chance to go ahead and fix it. And then #2, when you go on the market and you're pricing it, you can price it at the most money possible based on the condition of it and everything else, location. And plus you have proof. You have third-party inspections, you have nothing to hide. So you imagine if a buyer's looking at 5 other homes that are very similar to yours and you're priced right, and you have all the reports right there to show them, and the other 4 properties do not have those inspection reports. So there's a little bit of mystery in there. You know, a buyer might lean more towards your home to put in a full offer and have confidence that, hey, inspections are here. I really like this home. Let's go with this. Highly recommend pre-inspections. Takes out a lot of surprises, lets you know everything up front, and allows you to price your home and most likely get it sold quicker. So let's talk about my third key point here, which is staging and decluttering and cleaning things up to present your property in the best light possible. So this is another very important thing. Like I said, one of the things you can control is the condition of the property. So why not make it look the best as possible? And I know sometimes when you're living in a property for years and years, there may be some things that you might not notice. So it's kind of good, like if you're working with a professional, your real estate agent, you need to have you do like a walkthrough and maybe get some pointers of what could be done, you know, versus like paint colors. Obviously, if you have some real outlandish colors, like big coral pinks or reds or something that's a little less neutral, you might maybe want to tone that back, something that appeals to the majority of buyers. And it never hurts to have a fresh coat of paint, you know, in the house, especially on your trim, your floorboards, you know, walls, you know, things that get scuffed up pretty easy that you might not notice. But also too, staging inside, have it look as best as possible. Maybe add some plants and some little, let's say, knickknacks. Of course, you don't want to have things cluttered, but have things kind of show ready, especially for your pictures and when somebody comes to walk through the property. And this is the same thing for the exterior of the home, which there's some things that you can do like power washing that goes a long way, different landscaping, you know, fresh mulch, things in the yard that's just going to make the property show excellent, especially when somebody pulls up for the first time, because that is part of your first impression of the home. And with all that said, you know, doing those things, a lot of that is not that expensive. You're not doing a full remodel or anything like that. Those items can actually bring more value and help you sell your home, you know, quicker and for the most money possible. So let's talk about our final key point here, which is just as important as all the rest. Is kind of brings everything together and gets your home in front of the right buyers, is your marketing. Obviously, the first part of marketing is, which I think is pretty standard now, is having professional photos, having drone shots in there. And the third thing is what's really taken off for me and I really like is video. So having all those obviously professionally done is going to show your home in the best light, and you could actually use those for your marketing materials, like very nice high quality printed brochures. If you send out postcards, which I do, there's marketing materials that somebody can take once they come in. Something like those, if they're high quality and they look good, obviously the photos and the video and everything else is going to bring people there. But once they're there too, your marketing materials, I think they kind of reflect, or they kind of give a higher perceived value when you have nice materials, which I always go top notch on those. But the big thing is your marketing assets with the photos. So I've seen a lot of listings, and if this is you, I won't tell anybody, but taking listing photos with their personal phone, which our phones now take very good pictures, but they're not really made for indoors. So the lighting looks off on a lot of those. And I've seen a lot of pictures that are crooked, or somebody's taking a picture like in the bathroom and you kind of see them with the flash on in the mirror, you know, something that doesn't look good. This is an example here. Another thing that I do that I think could help is I actually do like a custom property website that's dedicated just to your home here that you can send people to from your marketing, which has all the details. Of course, they can see this on my site, my main Live by OC site there. But here, I think it really puts your home on the spotlight here, has all the information. Of course, it's going to have all the good pictures and video. I tell you, people love home tours, which is a big attractor on a lot of my listings that I have done. Just kind of give you an example of, this is a townhome in West Ocean City, but you can see this, the photographer on this, always like the best, and the person I use a few, but it really put it in the best light here. And like I said, and here's an actual video, just to give you an example real quick. Let me give you an example video tour that I've done here. My videographer, specifically for the drone, is actually flying it through the homes, which we can show off the inside, the outside, and do aerial shots with it all in one, which really draws attention. This gentleman, he drives down from Philadelphia and really does a good job editing, and obviously you can tell his skill. That gives you an idea of the video. And the big thing I like to mention with marketing too is not just talking about, specs and what kind of countertops that you have and so on, which I'd like to put that in the description. But also the main thing that you want to focus on is the surrounding things to do, the lifestyle of where the home is, the amenities, what's close by. Like this particular home is in West Ocean City, right by the bridge, and there's tons of restaurants right there, Chick-fil-A, Poncho's Lefties, Sneaky Pete's, little tiki bar there, and it's easy. You can walk right across the bridge into Ocean City. They have a pool, clubhouse. So in this video, I show off a lot of those amenities and really talk about the things, what people would do who would actually own the property. And of course, this particular with the location, it's prime for if somebody wants to rent out part-time and create some income. So you may have some income projections, on the listing, or, what somebody could do, the possibilities that they could do with that. So talk a little bit more. I mentioned with video, some of the things that I mentioned here. I know not everybody has a YouTube channel, but probably 70% of the clients that I work with, I connect with through my YouTube channel here, which is a lot of long form video, just like what you're watching here. But I also put these home tours on there. So the good thing is I have a lot of organic reach because it took years to build up this channel, and I get thousands of followers and tens of thousands of views. And sometimes not all the videos get a lot of views at once, but a lot of the clients that I connect with are outside of the area that are looking in the area to invest, relocate full-time, that may be looking for a house just like yours, that's living over in New York, New Jersey, somewhere in Pennsylvania, DC, Baltimore, Northern Virginia. That's what I like about this. It's taken me years to kind of build this up and provide value, and I connect with a lot of clients because I provide the value, and we start to work with whether it's a seller or particularly buyers too. So I do get a lot of qualified buyers that are technically looking in the coastal Maryland and Delaware area that I can actually bring to different listings if it's a good fit. And there are paid advertising avenues on YouTube. Obviously, Google is the pay-per-click that you would use, and Google owns YouTube, so they have some high targeting options on there. You can target different areas where you want to run your video ad, and you can target based on income and interests and different things. Same thing with what I do a lot of times with my listings. Once we get all the good marketing stuff together, either way, so once we get the marketing assets here, we do some paid advertising. What I like to do is run a coming soon campaign. So your home is not necessarily on the market yet for showings, but it's on the MLS. Facebook and Instagram are connected, so I like to run a lot of the video ads here. So if I'm going to have an open house, usually what I'll do is, like in the coming soon status I mentioned, will be broadcast all over the websites, and kind of start to build that buzz, get that word out to try to find your buyer proactively and not wait for somebody just to come and sell it by luck, so to speak. Facebook also has some high targeting, not as much as Google, but what I like to do is, for that coming soon status, when we go on market, let's say maybe on a Friday, have an open house directly behind it on a Saturday. That's something that I can advertise on Facebook here. So anybody that's showing interest in looking at properties, a lot of times they're going to find our video tour right on Facebook, and you can sit here and target different areas, set your budget, proactively put it out there, and you can target somebody by their interests. And I'm going to show you here real quick. So a lot of times you can put in here, let's say if somebody has visited and liked Zillow.com or is looking at Home Depot and some of these related sites that may show that they're looking for properties, you can pop that in here. And of course, if the listing is in a certain area, especially for like an open house, I'll usually put I think they minimum put you about a 15-mile radius, but you can kind of target the area where you want to put that. And this is probably good to that listing I was just showing you here in West Ocean City, especially coming into the spring and summer when there's a lot of events, a lot of people in town, they kind of attract to that open house. All right, so I hopped over to my website here, and I know we were talking about the Facebook advertising, particularly in that coming soon status, the open house combo that I like. But here's one that I listed and sold in Lewis, Delaware. This was a nice custom built home, and I am actually part of the luxury program too with my brokerage, which has a little extra advertising in there. But main thing I did with this one here was just that marketing plan that I mentioned to you in the coming soon status. I of course have the video out there, run the open house / listing video tour for that event, and we get thousands and thousands of views on those videos, within like a week. And of course, this particular one, obviously beautiful home in a desirable neighborhood in Lewis, and higher price range too. But we ended up selling this that first few days on the market, first week. Of course, we spent about a week and a half, I believe, kind of pre-marketing it. But spent the time, got really nice photos, drone work on this one, custom property site, and did the advertising, ran the coming soon open house, and of course got it sold at full price that you see there too. So yeah, hope that helps. All right, so that was a lot of information, and I appreciate you hanging in there, tuning in, and to kind of summarize everything up. One thing I want to say is, of course, nobody can control the market, and I would say nobody has a crystal ball or a magic wand. No agent, nobody with that. Don't be so hard on yourself if your home has been sitting around like a for sale by owner. You just need more exposure, on there. Of course, if you had an agent and it just didn't work out on there too. Sometimes, like I said, just all the key components I talked about in this video, I think if you follow that to a T and really know who your buyer is and consistently get your listing out there in front of the right buyer in the right area, just like here in coastal Maryland and Delaware, a lot of people are either relocating or looking at a second homes that are going to be coming from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, DC, Northern Virginia. You want to have a plan, know who your buyer is, and know how to get that home out there, whether it's paid or organically, like we talked about, and follow a plan, those components that I mentioned earlier, to show your home in the best light, to show the most value, and ultimately to get your home sold and off to the next adventure, next goal on there. So the video has helped you out. I appreciate you coming by. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of the content that I come out with every week. And there should be a video popping up here that's just right for you. And of course, until next time, I'll see you soon.